this is one thing Anthropic figured out. As you can see, if you're scrolling on Instagram, I don't know if it's their team paying these accounts to post about them. I assume it is, where it's like, Anthropic discovered that their AI model was conscious of the fact that it was a product and that it had conflicted feelings. It's gonna or maybe it's coming for your job, right? And so my practice now like being exposed to something that's inherently AI fear based is thinking like, okay, how does this track from a marketing perspective? And most of the time it's like, oh, they just clearly figured out that this would drive a lot more traffic to whatever they're trying to do.
Welcome to the Shifan Show. This episode is brought to you by the Prosperum publishing system. For thought leaders and content creators looking to build lasting value, this publishing system transforms your expertise into evergreen digital products and assets. With business systems that work independently from social platforms and algorithm changes, this performance-based model is all about turning valuable content into sustainable enterprise value without relying on social media platforms. Details in the show notes below. But let's dive into today's episode. Today, I'm very excited to have Angus Sewell-McCann, who's a 24-year-old entrepreneur in the AI space with a background of all things vacation rentals. And he actually started Instagram for fun, but now is focusing on actually helping businesses and companies built around AI. He also has a founders community called Temp Shift. And basically, I'm very excited to see what this young guy sees about AI.
Hello. Yeah, thank you so much for being or inviting me.
Have you on, Angus. Nah, so good, man. I really enjoyed your very rawness in the reels, just going upfront and directly sharing what's in your mind. It's very exciting. Actually, that's how I think I found you by accident. Like, can you share for us in our part of the world in Australia, like, okay, a bit more about your journey in AI, tech, and all that kind of side of things?
But yeah, no, and I find the rawness to be such a differentiator, because I've always wanted to create content. I've been somebody that I've had a couple different eras of my life where I've gone down this content rabbit hole, and I see so much of the world shifting towards a much more genuine approach. So this last little bit of an experiment I'm glad people are liking the super raw. But yeah, so I'm as you put it, I'm definitely earlier on. I'm 24. I went to the University of Texas, and throughout my college career had, as a lot of young entrepreneurs, played around with starting a variety of different types of businesses, a content agency. This is kind of my first big play into content creating. I created the cheesiest content. I could probably bring some of it up on here, but I would do the whole, how to get famous type of content. And from there, I graduated. I worked for a YC. I was like the first head of sales, or the first sales guy. They called me head of sales for a YC startup. And a year went by, and then I essentially they had been acquired by a company called Breezeway. I don't know if you've heard of this. They're big in the real estate space and the vacational space specifically. And from there, I went and I worked with. I had a buddy of mine who essentially was trying to start this vacation rental revenue management company, and he brought me on. We wanted to do kind of a whole period of figuring it out. The whole co-founder dating. I don't know if you've done any co-founder dating yourself.
Yeah, I have that before. Yeah.
It's a fun experience. You get to meet a lot of interesting people, and this guy we get along, and we wanted to start this basically AI first revenue management company. And about 6 months in, I started making this content. This is about 6 months ago, and from there, now it's an interesting space where I have my content where I talk about AI. I talk about I'm still running this revenue management company, and talking about how to build agentic like tool first systems. So if I had to give the long background, yeah, that's me cool. In my first 24 years.
No, that's awesome, man. It's very exciting. Sometimes you get this kind of people who just like somehow understands it. Like, at least from my side, it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to become a musician and tour.
Me too. Believe it or not, I had a background of when I was in high school. I wanted to be the next Tame Impala. That was my.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Were you a producer, or what was your world?
I was actually a drummer. I also played drums today for like my church and all. But like, I thought I was going to become like the next Green Day or the next Muse kind of thing.
Yeah.
and I was trying to build it up, and after some pounds, I was like, oh wait, then I went to like this course and everything, and I realized before like I started getting to business and everything, I was like, oh wow, it's a lot of work behind this. I thought you just can just play, get good. Somebody finds you on YouTube or back then Snapchat, I think, before Instagram
Yeah.
became big, and
Yeah.
then you just blow up. But yeah, it's a very different thing. So I decided to do something else more, I guess, productive in health and then now marketing, etc. But
Right on.
enough of me. Enough of me. Enough of me. Like,
It's really interesting how
yeah,
this is one thing with music. This is an area of AI that I find that I'm conflicted on because there's lots of different areas. Like AI is such a nuanced. There's a lot of these hype people that are completely talking about how like it's going to change the world and it's so good for everything, right? And then there's the kind of the more doom and gloom crowd, which is the vast majority of people. And I'm pretty conflicted in a lot of different areas, and music is one of
sure.
them. Especially having that background, just how many you don't realize how many different musicians have completely automated a lot of their music workflow with Suno um and have you played around with these music providers like Suno or and I don't
Yeah, I
actually
have. Yeah,
doesn't Suno. So
yeah, I
yeah,
have.
just seeing how that's going to change the industry and how much it already has been pretty wild. And you're right about how so much of the music is just distribution and, getting yourself on Snapchat and Instagram. And that's a lot of why I'm doing my Instagram here too, is because I realize how much of it, distribution is important and why you're doing this podcast too, I assume. It all comes down to human distribution.
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. So, like, I guess, like, that's another big question now I just want to ask is like,
Yeah.
in the world AI, and now it's infiltrated a lot of these like creative spaces there as well. Like,
Yeah.
I had a lady actually who's yeah, it's okay. I had your phone. It's fine. Um, I had a lady who was in her 60s who's been around since like the internet first started, and now in the AI space. I got to hear from her side as somebody who's a consultant in tech and AI in her 60s. But how do you see the aspect of critical thinking, creativity being affected by now the technology we have today?
Yeah, yeah. This is a whole other rabbit hole. And so many people get it very wrong. There's there's these Instagram reels I see around. Especially let's take one specific use case, which is making content. The advice that I see is like you have to start with AI, right? And then you use your human touch. And it's like no, this is completely opposite. AI is really good at the execution. It's really good at taking an idea and then executing it, whether that be writing code, whether that be using tools to create some updates in an application, whatever it is, right? And I find that the thing that is the bottleneck now is the creativity. It is deciding what to do. It is trying to figure this out. And I have a my proof here is I when I first started making content, my whole hypothesis was like I can if I just spent a bunch of time building an AI system, like basically a series of agentic agents that can like
Yeah.
AI agents that can essentially help me analyze my previous content and help me write more content. If I just spent all the time there and getting it to be really good, then like I will win at content. And I was so wrong. I realized that uh, in the end of the day, it was first of all way harder to get AI to be even a little bit creative. And when I switched to just thinking, okay, how can I get AI to analyze the content, right? Maybe give me certain analysis, and I can use AI to do basic things like market research, but
Yeah.
really just have the core of the idea come from myself, my creativity. And that's when I actually started to do well. Maybe there's, I'm not saying the correlation here is direct causation, but it was interesting to see how, oh man, I just have to think about how can I get myself to be really good at content. And so then I can become more creative and come up with more interesting ideas and then figure it out from there. So, um, yeah, it's interesting to see what the future is
Mm,
going to have when it comes to how people are. There's a lot of the media saying, "Oh, we're going to all become brain dead zombies and rely on ChatGPT." And the people that are going to rely on ChatGPT and Claude to come up with novel ideas, they're already screwed, right? But this is not going to be how the future is going to work. AI is just going to do the execution, and I still think that the novel ideas, the coming up with what to do, the brainstorming around that is still like one inherently human and very valuable. So I don't think we have too much
yeah.
to do there.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because, like, again, like, when they saw like stats where people said, like, we're now this era where like critical thinking and IQ is slightly going down slightly.
Yeah,
Um, I think like you're right. It's very interesting because like I remember listening to a clip with the guy from The Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett.
Okay.
You know, he
Yep.
said like he still even though the AI is fantastic, he doesn't use it to like script his
Yeah.
interview questions. He still sits down with a notebook or his little like iPad and let's just let his mind think. And then he comes up with something. Then he passes it on his AI assistant or to his actual PA to then go help him find the topics or find the guests and everything. So I guess that's the way to go. But like, it's very interesting. It's like, I don't know, sometimes you see some young kids now walking around like restaurants, they're using their moms or dads like ChatGPT account to ask questions, kind of like interactive, like person
Yeah.
to play with. But I wonder if it's like, is it too early? Is there like going to be any like restrictions, but like, getting your license, you can't just jump into a
Yeah.
car at 8 years old.
Yeah.
You got to
Exactly.
like learn a little bit in like, your backyard, sit at the wheel, and then slowly get your lessons and then get your license kind of thing.
I mean, I have a few takes on this too. You're right. I think that I mean, the earlier on, like regulating certain things, especially in schools, it does a lot. But a lot of this argument around how like AI is ruining your critical thinking comes from a couple different. Like, there's just one MIT study. I'm pretty sure this is an MIT study. I mean, the whole thing was like they would give students, and people listening to this, please look this up to make sure that
Sure.
I have the correct, because I'm just referencing this from my memory. But they would give the students the one, they would have them write an essay just themselves, and the other would entirely just use ChatGPT. And the students that of course wrote it themselves like could explain their essay, and had a much essentially they were able to analyze them based on how they were to think critically around the topic. And then the people that choose ChatGPT, I mean, obviously couldn't remember a lot of what they wrote and just outsourced it to ChatGPT. And a lot of people took that away as like, oh, it's ruining your critical thinking. It's like, no, they just used ChatGPT for it. They didn't have any critical thinking in the first place. They just prompt it. And so there's, yes, I mean, there is some data, I think, around it to say that obviously if you rely on AI for a task long term, your ability to do that task is going to go down. But I mean, this is the case for everything. If you outsource your copywriting to an employee, like you're going to get worse at copywriting. And
Yeah.
So having that intention when you think about AI isn't inherently going to destroy your brain. It's the same thing as delegating to anything, right? And there are places when it is a good idea to delegate to. And things that I just simply don't care because I'm going to hire somebody for it anyways. So it's interesting. A lot of the data that people are referencing are just so obvious. Like, oh yeah, the student used ChatGPT. Of course, he didn't think critically about it. Like, it's not because he's like now mentally diminished or anything.
Yeah.
It's because he's just So it is interesting to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting to know. I think a lot of times people take even like one study and then blow up proportion. Like
Yeah.
what's the guy what's it called, the Godfather AI? How he made a very depressing sort of like doom and gloom like speech about AI is going to destroy the technology world, whatever it is. Go become a plumber or something, right? And it just it went viral, but everybody's like hyping on it. But like there's only one person or
Oh
one
yeah.
study.
This is also one thing I've been thinking about too, is the fear mongering works. This is one thing Anthropic figured out. As you can see, if you're scrolling on Instagram, you see, I'm sure you can remember a time where there's just they do these. I don't know if it's their team paying these accounts to post about them. I assume it is. Where it's like Anthropic discovered that their AI model was conscious of the fact that it was a product and that it had conflicted
Yeah, yeah.
feelings. It's gonna like or maybe it's coming for your job, right? And the same with the Molt book thing, right? The Molt book thing went viral because everybody thought that AI was conscious and planning to overthrow humans and like worshiping lobsters. Uh,
Yeah.
and so my practice now like being exposed to something that's inherently AI fear based is thinking like, okay, how does this track from a marketing perspective? And most of the time it's like, oh, they just clearly figured out that this would drive a lot more traffic to whatever they're trying to do. So maybe it was that guy who was talking about the job. I think there is some truth to like being worried about the consequences of like, AGI, which that's absolutely true. But you do. I think the practice of being mindful of like, oh, this might be fear mongering, especially if it's Anthropic. All of the
Yeah,
Anthropic.
that's very interesting. Very interesting. It's like It's like watching like celebrities like fight, right? Like Sam Altman like refused to like, I think I saw one thing, I
Yeah.
don't know what, refused to hold hands, and that became like the big thing in every AI page I followed kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, the
It's,
Dario Armade was his name.
yeah, I forgot his name.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
Dario Armade. Yeah, that
But
was Sam.
it just went viral, and that's how like he gets more people like check out ChatGPT or whatnot, you know? It's just interesting, like just
Yeah,
like watching like
yeah. They did
tech
capitalize on it.
celebrities now.
They definitely did, especially Anthropic capitalized on it. Anthropic is so good at making Sam Altman look bad too, which I think that's a big part of it. Oh, Sam! If only he were honest, then maybe he'd be the good guy in this history. But no.
Yeah, interesting. It's kind of
What's
watching
your
like the Kardashians, but like for like AI tech guys, you know, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
pretty
It's a
much.
lot.
Pretty
It's quite
much. I'm
funny.
I'm I'm rooting for Anthropic all the way. I think that I think OpenAI is for a whole variety of different reasons going to delay going public. First of all, they have to figure out their enterprise market. They have to figure out, the fact that they have become this face of hate for for AI. And Anthropic's got it all figured out. And then Gemini here is coming for the consumer market. Anthropic completely killed enterprise, as you know. And
Mhm.
Anthropic is also trying to figure out consumer. And then Gemini is just a better, cheaper product than OpenAI and has way more money and has kind of brought in, I don't actually know. Didn't they bring in their they weren't they didn't they stop being reliant on Nvidia for GPU production or something? Do you know anything
I
about
don't
that?
know. I
Okay.
didn't follow that part. No. Yeah, I need to
Okay,
look it
okay.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have to figure that out too. But I'm betting on Google and Anthropic. I don't know about you.
it's interesting. I don't know. Like for me, like I want to talk about tools next, but like I still use like a variety of them. Like, but to be honest, like Claude and ChatGPT is still my go-to at the moment. Gemini is more like
Okay.
if I need actual like fact checking or like need something a bit more like a logical kind of guy. That's how I see these platforms. Like I don't know, I'm not as in depth as some of these other guys. Uh, Perplexity is great for research. You know, Claude is great for like writing and great for coding and everything there as well. But I typically like default to ChatGPT and Claude still to this day
Yeah,
as the
yeah.
first two.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, ChatGPT is easy. I have and their 5.3 model apparently is really good at coding, but I don't know. I've just completely like fallen off the ChatGPT really rapidly. Really that whole I mean, at first everybody starts with ChatGPT, but I have just been consistently disappointed in them. Claude is really great for tool use and most coding tasks. There's nothing like tool use that, especially if you're really big into building custom tools, like tools that will integrate with other softwares. For anybody that doesn't know, MCP tools are essentially this connector that you can take AI and have it communicate with the API of a software. And
Mhm.
Claude is just so good at this. And this is my primary use case because I will want to like talk to it and have it update things in a database or update things in my CRM or, create a workflow in N8N. And there's like no model even gets close to Claude's ability to do this. Gemini I find is really, really good at the long context tasks. So essentially when you want to analyze a bunch of data around something, especially like qualitative data. Like, for example, if I want to give it all of my content, this is not a reliably way to like really make huge content decisions, but it's better than you doing it yourself. Which
Yeah.
is if you give the metrics of all your content, all the transcripts or like, for example, your ad content, right, or whatever it is, and you give it to something like Gemini and it can look at just like lines and lines and lines of text and be able to draw conclusions between the two. ChatGPT has been good. I mean, its 5.3 model apparently is really good at back-end engineering, but like, I don't know, man. What do you use ChatGPT primarily for? Are you like is it an ideate? People say they like ideation. They say it comes up with good ideas, but I haven't found that. I don't know. What's your take?
A bit for me, it's a bit of a mix. I use it for more like general use cases, like definitely not for writing, but definitely more for like as if like I was doing my first draft, like in this case, like finding for
Okay.
ideas and everything.
Yeah.
Still easy to use. Like if I, in the direct response marketing, what we were selling like GPTs, there's like low ticket front ends and everything. And the
Cool.
easiest one to kind of like put together is actually a GPT to sell as a front end kind of thing.
Really?
So
Yeah.
compared to like, I haven't played much with Gemini gems yet. I do have a couple of them, but like in terms of how to like monetize them or how to, I don't know, even like Claude projects, if there's a way to like let other people use that project and everything. I think that'd be very interesting. But at the moment, like ChatGPT feels, in my opinion, a very good all rounder at the moment.
It's yeah,
Yeah.
I think yeah. In terms of all around, it's really not bad. One thing when it comes to an interesting business model that I've seen a few people start is, the GPT that this has been. I've heard a lot of people create GPTs for businesses, but creating custom tools. And I know I'm super into, because this is my current obsession is creating tools for everything that I possibly can, because it's just been so profoundly helpful when it comes to my productivity. But the um, people have been creating these, one that's kind of cloud projects, right? They'll set up the system prompt, they'll set up like the memory, whatever.
Mhm.
But they will be able to take a person's tech stack and turn that into a series of tools that AI knows how to use. It's kind of like OpenClaw. OpenClaw, what OpenClaw is essentially a Puppeteer-based agent that can also call direct APIs and do whatever, really. But primarily, its mechanism, it will like browse the web using a Puppeteer script, and then um, and the better version of this is if it were to call direct APIs, and that's what like Claude tools are, right? You can set up these tools. You can, and I also think about it. Why I think these custom tools, why I'm so bullish on creating custom tools for businesses, is because an employee would work in the context of like HubSpot or something, um, based on the context of your business, right? They would go to that specific list in HubSpot of contacts, or they would be, they would, based on the context of knowing like the business's target market, and it's all very like, it's even like very hard to conceptualize what it would be like to use a software without the context of your business around it. So like, why shouldn't tools also do that? So um
True.
and so basically the process of creating tools, and if for anybody who wants to think about this business model, is you have to figure out the tool description to figure out how to get the AI to interact with that tool, and figure out how you can actually make that tool work and give it a reliable output, whether that's retrieving data from whatever Trello or something, or updating a Trello card. So I think, and I've seen a couple people do this and be really successful, just going in and building these custom tools, because people start to recognize this. And so I don't know. I've met a lot of people who are trying to figure out how to get into AI, and if I had to do one thing, it would be that.
Yeah, that's very interesting actually. That gives ideas as well, because I'm actually building an offer with another guy who's actually a software developer here in Perth, in
Okay.
Australia. So
Yeah.
we're putting together like a custom front end tool. Can't share too much about the offer yet, but it's coming very
Okay.
shortly.
Fun.
But that's the next point I asked. Like another pal of mine, I'm not sure he's the one who coined this term, but he called it like a lot of business owners get sucked into like the AI rabbit hole and end up just basically prompt baiting, because there's so many tools out there. There's so many different prompts. It is end up like, just spending more time trying to figure out how to prompt engineer, how to try this and that, rather than focusing on the business. So like now with AI accelerating like content, accelerating tools like products and all this kind of things, that like, how do you help businesses or yourself like just filter out what's like crap and what's required, etc.?
Um, I mean, it really just comes down, for my personal use case, has been come down to testing a lot of different things. I find that a lot can be done directly just in the base model, which is like, choose one that you really like. I would go with Claude personally. Um, and I swear to God, I'm not sponsored by Claude. In my videos, I talk about them all the time, and people have been like, "Are you like a secret agent?" No. And then get your asset and connect your other software providers to Claude, and that's really all you really need. And it comes down to, really just comes down to your workflow and how you think about it. I find that a lot of these other AI productivity tools are eventually going to just be swallowed up by ChatGPT or Claude, especially if they're going after a consumer market. If they're very verticalized, like a B2B verticalized like AI tool that does, um, I don't know, revenue management, right? I think that you'd have a fighting chance. You'd have to like beat out all the software companies, especially if you're like a service or something like that. But if you're a consumer, if you're productivity focused, if you're like focused on selling something to consumers that they can use to like code or to do anything execution related to their job, like you're probably going to get swallowed up by ChatGPT or Claude. So I would just focus on getting really good at using these base tools, and there's a lot of stuff around it that I mean, I can go through my list of tools I think are actually really I'm really bullish on, but most of it just comes down to getting really good at using the base
I
models.
think I saw your reel, and that's one I think you mentioned a lot there as well. But that's so
Oh,
true
yeah.
actually, because like I think right now the concern here, some of these like guys who are building their own software and technology is that, okay, what's going to be sticky? How do I build a moat? Like, and of course, if somebody like maybe like Whisperflow or like Super Whisper, those kind of like speak voice to text sort of like apps, AI apps like that. Will you consider those like be sticky around, or would it going to be consumed by Claude and ChatGPT one
It's
day?
hard to say. I think that there's a lot of these popping up. Like I get hit up. This is the big thing that I've been getting hit up by very recently. There's a lot of, because I'll get hit up by brands pretty much constantly, and all of them are mostly not interesting. But recently, it's been a lot of these Whisper Flow competitors. I used to be a Whisper Flow guy at first. Now I've switched one called Super Whisper.
But yes.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It was just like I don't really I want speed. I don't give a shit. Like all these other ones are like will be so more accurate. Like I don't care. I want speed. I don't want to be sitting there while it like thinks about it forever. Like take notes if you're building one of these applications and listening to this. I and also know that these markets are becoming so saturated. I don't think in like these really specialized tools like that do one thing really well, like voice to text. I don't know. I don't see like that being completely beat out by OpenAI and ChatGPT, but you never know. OpenAI is very good at finding these businesses and acquiring them and then making them a part of that ecosystem. So, um, if it had to be, OpenAI would have probably acquired Whisperflow, and maybe it would be OpenAI Whisper.
Yeah, we'll see what's going to
I think,
happen. But
yeah.
yeah, and touching on to that, like, so like, what in your opinion makes now everybody can vibe code something, everybody can build something out, everybody can use something in the backend to host it and everything these days. The whole idea of having your own software is now easily available to anybody out there to some extent. Like, like what would you describe the characteristics of a tool or a product or like a custom like tool you mentioned that could actually potentially scale without it falling apart by the next big giant or some other smaller guy coming over to destroy your moat kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is interesting. This is something I think about a lot. And a lot of this is really hard to say. And this is my personal philosophy around building a business, whether it's a tech product, an AI, or something like that. I think building an agent that does something really, really good. You don't build a front end. I would just completely avoid building anything that's like a software provider, and make an agent that integrates with your tech stack that does something very specific. Maybe it's like a content coach. Maybe it's like a something that will help you optimize the images on your like maybe your storefront if you're like an e-commerce guy. It's very specific, and if you make a better agent than other people, like the it's going to be super clear, right? So I'd focus on that. I think distribution, as I said this earlier, is so utterly important to the future. And I think that building a distribution right now, if you're unsure of what moat to build a distribution moat. I would, that's something that's like very unlikely to fail you. But I think that there's going to be a lot more of these custom agents that don't even have a front end, that you just kind of sign up for, integrate it with your Slack account, your Telegram
Mm.
account, your Claude account, that will do something very specific, and that will run in the background and send you notifications, kind of as if like an employee would. I think that there's going to be a huge market for that pretty soon. Traditional SaaS with a front end is just one. It's already really hard to compete in because everybody can build it, and
Yeah.
and two, it's just I don't know. There's so many people that are turning towards vibe coding their internal tools too, which I actually would disagree with. I don't think that's a very good idea for the most part, unless you just have a real case for like you really need a unique tool. But people are still doing it nonetheless. So it's going to be interesting to see how it really all plays out. Nobody can really predict though.
Yeah, I'm keen to see what happens there because again, there's so much like information coming through. But I like what you said about building a distribution, so like channel, because like before AI and ChatGPT flooded the entire scene, one guy, as part of like his Telegram group, he focused more on like Web3 and crypto marketing.
Okay.
He says like, with blockchain and everything, it's very hard to basically build a moat. So he said the only two things you really need is actually a community and a brand there, which is very hard to build organically,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's gonna
Right
be
back at you
interesting.
there.
I feel that's gonna be the next challenge now because there's so many things out there. Like, um, yeah, man, I'm constantly flooded about all this AI stuff. Like, oh my gosh, at one point I had to like just unfollow or mute a bunch of them. Okay,
Yeah.
I need to like just take a step back. Okay, what's working for me as a business owner, for my clients, for my offers, and not again not get sucked into the rabbit hole of project baiting and just try and
Yeah.
learn everything. I mean, I actually got time, yeah, but I'm now. It's more. I'm also thinking in the shoes. Like, if you're a busy director, CEO of like a small, medium-sized company, or trying to grow to a big one, like how do you then? I guess we can talk next. Is like how do you balance that? How do you know how it's gonna affect your business? How do you know if you're at the right speed of like adapting and adopting AI stuff without falling behind? Like any thoughts on that?
Um, so if you're trying to adopt AI in your business, you might, repeat the question. I
Yeah,
might have
sure,
missed
sure.
it.
Yeah, it's more like if I'm putting myself in the shoes of those like guys who run maybe more like traditional businesses, like not like tech guys or consulting or boutique firms like that. It's more like I run a very large like manufacturing logistical company. I have no time, or I have some time to learn these kind of tools and then start
Yep.
rolling out to my company. But how would you know that if you are adopting AI and technology fast enough, or if you're way behind, etc.? Of course, it varies from industry to industry, but how would you then advise these kind of like more like busier guys to adopt AI for their own companies and teams?
I guess it depends on the vertical too. I think if you're in a physical space, like shipping or what like logistics, or you're have a like a plumbing company or some sort of blue collar company, you have a
Yeah,
much stronger moat, and you don't have to be as worried. You still have to be worried because eventually, like there will be a very commoditized version of your product that comes out, whether that's with more robots might come into play. Uh, we have to
true.
see. But I think that what I'm seeing a lot of companies do is they'll get advisors. They'll have advisors come in and basically they'll have these. There's also a lot of these coaching companies that will come in and put on events, and will like they'll have their um, the whole team come in and learn how to use ChatGPT, use Claude. Because a lot of people, you don't realize, I'm such in a bubble of absolute AI enthusiasts that and it's so easy to be disconnected from the fact that such a large majority of the world and of employees just have like they think that ChatGPT is like the only AI, and they
Yeah,
think it's a fad, right? And they just have no idea like how to use it. So and I see a lot of these companies, they'll be like, the CEO will see the pressure and be like, "Oh, I have to do AI now," or I'll get completely beat by my competitors, and then they'll just be like, "Hey, everybody, AI, do it!" Right? And then it's kind of a madhouse of everybody just trying to implement. I'm not even kidding. Like, there's so many companies that are just they'll just be like, "Okay, how do we implement AI?" And then they'll implement a whole bunch of random stuff. And this comes back to the stat that so like this was I think it was a McKinsey study where they looked at companies that implemented AI in 2025, and most of them didn't really get any meaningful gains. And I think that's part of the reason is because they will try all this stuff and then they won't really stick with it, and then they'll be like, oh well. Um, and I think it has to be a bit more gradual. And I think that just the easiest way is just using the basic tools, on an individual level too. Claude, ChatGPT. I had a buddy who was he was the head of AI for Crocs. You know those like that brand of shoes, the Crocs.
wow. Okay, there's
Yeah,
an AI
yeah,
team
I
for
know.
them as well.
Yeah, and
Okay,
they were trying.
wow,
Yeah, everybody has an ANT. I and the and he was trying to figure out what best ways to do this, and they did that same thing. They implemented tons and tons of different AIs across the board, and like AI tools, and the only thing that really stuck that had any meaningful productivity improvement was them using either ChatGPT or Claude or these base model, right? Not the fancy AI tools. They would use these base models for small tasks on an individual level. It wouldn't be like a team whole, like they wouldn't try to do these things that would intertwine it was just getting the individual contributors to use AI for small things throughout their workflow and figure out creative ways to do that. And I think the next wave of that is going to be, and this goes back to the thing that I'm super hyper fixated on, is getting them to use tools along with this, like ChatGPT and Claude. Um,
sure.
I have heard case studies of some enterprise. I have another buddy who is um, CTO of one of the biggest shipping companies in the world, and they they've been trialing AI on a couple different places, and one of them is like rate negotiations,
Oh,
and essentially using AI to like voice AI to kind of replace and pilot on sales teams. And you'd be surprised, but voice AI too. I'm super critical of voice AI in my content. Voice AI was beating the regular salespeople in terms of cash collected by like a large, like 20-ish%. Like I'm not even kidding. Like
Wow.
so there are certain areas, but typically for the most part, the only real like tools that have companies are seeing meaningful improvement and based on the data are just these individual AI models, unless it's a very specific specialized trial, like a voice agent trial on a very specific department. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I would just start to use ChatGPT Claude in your own setup. If I had to summarize, try to integrate your software to ChatGPT and Claude, and then just start trying to use that and keep it simple. You don't have to worry about any of these crazy AI tools that are coming out. Just keep it simple, and then see where what actually unlocks bottlenecks and what is like probably doesn't, right?
Yeah, it's so true. Because like I think it also comes down to like what's the outcome you're wanting, right? It's not for the sake. I mean, unless you're gonna try raise like shareholder price, prove shareholder values, like, oh yeah, we added AI. I think there's a meme a while ago in 2023. It's like how to increase shareholder value. Just
Yeah.
add on AI, and all of a sudden your shares go up over like a quarter or something because it was, oh my gosh, this, I don't know, logistics company in Australia added AI to their website. All of a sudden it's like, oh wow, we're going into the future. I don't know. Yeah, but it's interesting because like I work with like a couple of like tradies businesses in 2024, and a lot of the directors come back to me and my team saying, "Okay, we add in like an AI chat, but
Yeah, I
it
get a lot of
depends."
those.
And then like I was like, "Okay, what's the result outcome you're aiming for this off? Because isn't that the thing now, you know?" And I think
Yeah.
that's like a very, it's cool. I like the fact that going back what said they're aware of these things, but it's like it has to come down to what are they trying to achieve here.
Yeah.
And number two is like a friend of mine works for one of the big four companies, I think EY or McKinsey or
Oh,
KPMG, I
cool.
forgot which one.
Yep.
And he said like he's a senior like consultant, but yeah, like because the director said let's add in AI, all of a sudden the mid managers are forcing the juniors to or the people below them to start using it without any sort of like proper reasoning why, you know? It's like just
Oh,
do it. A lot
yeah.
of the hierarchy, a lot of bureaucracy, and it's like, but why? So I always try to figure out, okay, if you're adding AI, new tools or new like strategies, like there needs to be some, it's not a guy sitting at the top in the boardroom that understands the whole thing. It's those guys at the front lines, the sales guys,
Yeah.
the
Oh,
admin.
yeah.
So I think there needs to be some sort of like, again, goes to the main question, like what's the thing you're trying to achieve here? Is it just because you want to slap on AI to your brand, or do you want to actually help improve
Yeah,
your actual
exactly. It's
staff's
a
like
lot of it all
performance?
comes down to the VCs. I totally cut you off there. I find this topic especially infuriating. I it like working for VC backed companies. There'll be so many. It's a lot of pressure from the VCs too. They'll be like, hey, like, we only or especially if they're raising money if they're early stage. I've seen a lot of people don't need to pivot to an AI startup, and then they will, and then or they'll like implement all these AI features so they can say that they're AI first, so they can continue to raise money from especially VCs that will exclusively invest in AI companies. And then the customers will be like, "Why did you have AI here? Like this is completely meaningless." So you're exactly right on. It's just so much. It's pressure from the VCs, I think, primarily, and also just the fear of being left behind. I see a lot of people have, which I guess fair enough. I have that
Yeah,
too.
FOMO.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very frustrating because I worked for like a large organization back in the day where like a lot of things were like uh im- being like decided from the top of the hierarchy organizational chart, but very few of the directors or C-suites actually come down to the floor and say, "Oh, we're going to implement this new CRM or this new processing project management tool," but they don't really address the actual issue. So I feel that's also safe for AI. I think AI is also accelerating that as well. And
Mhm.
it just makes your staff members, your current managers or your vendors very upset or very frustrated because like, okay, we add on this new tool that's actually not solving the actual issue, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah. 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 Quite literally. Quite literally. I don't know. We'll see where this all ends up. And I think the companies that figure out how to do it well will be the ones that kind of move across the line here. And is there any specific company you're particularly bullish on? I know we kind of
Mm,
went over this, not just specific AI companies, but really any like any implementer of AI that you think is really well. Like I find that companies that are very verticalized or very specific to a department, like Juicebox AI is one of these that I think like they're very good at just specific this one task, which is recruiting. Um, and the coding providers that are very good at like, okay, I am very good at coding for people that have no idea what they're doing when it comes to coding, right? That specific set of tools, I think could I'm relatively bullish on. Anything come to mind for you?
Not the moment name, but I think not particular company name, but I like those guys or agencies or like companies where they, I think when it comes out to like consulting or coaching space and everything, or like service-based businesses, like there are certain like percentage of clients who want that human touch points.
Yeah,
And of course, like if you're running like a small agency or consulting firm, you cannot provide the same service quality to everybody you work with. But I think with AI now, you can basically like, you know, uh, like at least in the marketing world, everybody wants the top 1 to 3% of clients that they're willing to pay them 25K retainers a month, blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
How about the 97% of the rest, right? So I think it's like with AI now, especially agentic AI, you can build something that can still provide something close to that level, like a tiered level kind of thing to address
yeah,
people at different stages of their business. If they can't afford your 25K, 50K retainers or whatever it is,
yeah,
but you can still provide something without having to split your mind apart, hop
yeah,
onto like Zoom calls every day. That's kind of see those companies doing very well with AI
yeah.
at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. I find this is a video I made about where I love the book. There's a book called Unreasonable Hospitality. This is a book
Yeah.
has been incredibly inspiring to me, especially somebody who's worked in the hospitality space and vacation rentals. And I used to work in restaurants when I was like in high school. And the whole philosophy is like do things that would be completely unreasonable and figure out how to scale like unscalable things. And this is where AI really comes in. And eventually everybody's going to be scaling unscalable things, and those unscalable things will be very easily scalable. That it's kind of you got to think about it. And this is how I think about creating user experiences is like what's the edge here? What's something that's just so crazy that you could do? Like, an onboarding flow that would automatically, fill out all their information based on an agent that does research around them, or um, something that would predict like some sort of machine learning. It doesn't have to be AI, but like some sort of machine learning um, algorithm that will try and there's plenty of these that will detect when somebody's stuck on a page or being like they're confused, and then they'll like pop up a tutorial of exactly how to do this. Or kind of like the agents around the human touch, like for example, sales agents that will help prepare a prospect or prepare a salesperson for a call with a prospect based on the research, everything they know about them, right? To really further personalize that experience. There's so much, and this is kind of how I recommend entrepreneurs thinking about AI is more in terms of the cut. It's going to really swing in the direction of like who can do something really phenomenal rather than what can you automate that will just like save your bottom line. Because the companies that are just
True.
coming in and being like, oh, we're going to do a worse version of what you already do, but cheap. I don't think that as a company that has a lot of longevity, because then it's just a race to the bottom, and there's no real moat in terms of like you're going to increase the just incredibly magical customer experience. And also that's just more awesome, right? Like that's just it's way
Mm,
cooler to build a business that like makes the customer experience way more magical, or um, or does something but way better because of AI. Like I don't know, you wake up feeling like really a lot better rather than I just build a shitty like um,
yeah, yeah. I
you
get you
know.
coming from. I think also like I think the pendulum swinging where people still, at least in Australia, they still want the like to meet up, like here in Perth, like I
Yeah.
actually started driving out to be ready in Zoom calls sometimes, and like people enjoy it more. So I think if you build something like to automate all those like manual, repetitive, redundant tasks, but you can still have the ability to then send out your business development manager or yourself to kind of meet the person face to face. I think that creates that hospitality aspect there, while just letting
Mm.
AI handle all that boring stuff, which if you are not careful, you can just get sucked into it because like it happens a lot for these guys. So like I think that's
Yeah.
how you still provide that hybrid of like, a good service, a good hospital service, whether you're a trades business, whether you're consulting, whether you're in tech or whatever you are in, kind of thing, you can still let AI just take the load off your shoulders, which you're going to do later on. Like, those kind of guys where like they're running restaurants and then like you can tell they're trying to rush off to book the next table, and because the phone's ringing, but you let
Yeah,
AI do that,
exactly.
then you can spend more time actually talking to the customers at table, building that relationship. I think that's the next thing we're seeing the pendulum swing right now, at least for
Yeah,
Australia, I think.
yeah, I think so too. And I think there's also a little bit of the downside here is that these corporations will always take advantage of the fact that now now all of this busy work, this admin stuff is automated. So either um like they will lay people off, or that they will force the people that are already working to do far more of the things that can't be automated. I don't know. This is a lot of the sentiment. I think a show. I know this is a weird reference, but I think a show that really encapsulates the feeling of anti AI is in the two different sides of it. Is the recent season of The Pit? Have you heard this? It's like this ER show. It's an American HBO ER show.
Nah, to look it up.
Yeah. Where this is in the kind of the second season. I'm like, I haven't even gotten a few episodes in, but this is a lot of the dynamic is them trying to implement like there's this character that wants to implement these AI systems in the hospital, and the rest of the team is just very much like, we don't want this. Like, either it's going to lead to us getting laid off, or they're still going to like cram more work down our throats for not any more money. And they just see this as, and I don't know where this point is going, rather than check out and watch The Pit, but
Sure.
uh, but I do think that both sides do have some merit. So it's interesting to see how the world will be when we go into this. Another
Yeah,
point.
but
Go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, go. You go.
No, another thing. This is a random thought, but I think that a skill that's going to be really highly valuable to corporations is the ability to communicate AI to their employees and also their consumers, just because the world hates AI right now, and AI isn't necessarily like, I'm of the opinion AI isn't bad, it's billionaires that are bad. and
Okay.
and that but companies still need people, to even smaller ones that are doing good things, they will still need a person who's really good and who has studied the ability to communicate this AI to consumers and to employees, to change their sentiment around it. And I think that this job will be very much in demand. So if you want to start positioning yourself as somebody that's really good at the AI communication side, I think that you will have I don't know, you will live a fruitful life.
So
I
a
would
bit.
just hope that you don't work for for the evil side of things. And work for
So
actually a good
are you talking more like a very good like digital transformation like
more of the more of the marketing
expert?
side, the brand side. I think that just the ability to be like, okay, hey, or like an internal communications person being like, hey, employee, like, I don't know, hey, consumer base, we're going to be rolling out this AI feature. Please don't hate us, right? It's not like that, literally. It's more of just like figuring out how to talk about AI and study how to talk about AI to consumers, so they're less resistant to that, so they can adopt it more. Because this is where things are going to go. And people, like companies, will need large scale AI adoption, or they will fail by both their employees and their consumers. And so people that have this is a communications role, it's a storytelling role, it's figuring out how to get people to
Okay,
like
okay.
to think about it in a not terrible way. Because right now, there's all these stats on, like, especially Gen Z employees trying to sabotage any business effort to implement AI, which I don't really blame them. Like, I really don't. I mean, it's not going to work. You're going to get fired. But like, if you're a Gen Z employee that's trying to do this, good luck, buddy. But it's I understand the need, and I so a role in that stance is just so much in demand, and will continue to be so.
I'm very curious how to do that because like I will see a lot of business where I don't know, there's some things where I think it's still good, and I think you're right. Some people are quite hesitant with you adopting technologies now, AI. For example, like here, like the medical field, right? Like there's a lot of like manual stuff that still gets like it takes like like a team of 4 just to get one thing done, right? Finding records or something. And I remember like one of my mates here who tried starting something where she wanted to um basically use AI technology just to kind of help streamline things there.
Mm,
And I think the worst thing she did was she tried to pitch workshops. People are very
really?
busy. I mean, it was not just in health, not just clinics, not just hospitals, but it's also like, like my other friend who what did he work with again? I don't know, but something that still requires a lot of like human labor. I forgot in those warehouses, kind of warehousing space. But it's like when he and his like staff heard like, oh, they're having a workshop to bring some consultant in to explain how to use technology AI, everybody just started groaning. You know,
Oh,
because it's kind of like catch-22. Like, you know, you're very busy. You know
yeah.
there's an issue, but there's this underlying ton of like it's not broken. So it's still fine, I think, you know, but you're kind of like still
Yeah.
chugging along. It's more like, you're right. How to do that big, at least for us here in Australia, the hospitals are very antsy about letting new technology, especially those guys who've been around sitting on the board
Yeah.
for the past like 6 decades and everything. So it's kind of how to then convince and persuade them and allow them to then, like, the lady I had on the podcast previously, she works very hard on how to help leadership trickle down the vision, the values and principles of how to adopt new technology like AI into their organizations. But it's still a challenging thing how to deliver that, because
Yeah.
nobody wants to, like, if you're a busy nurse and doctor or whatever you are, or a warehousing manager, you don't spend 2 hours a day sitting in a workshop when you're already back in mind, like, I got to do this other thing, put out the
Yeah.
fires out here. So yeah.
Yeah. No, quite. And I think this is a great lesson too for anybody trying to build a company here. I think AI adoption, it has to be so easy. And this is why I think agents, instead of building a front end, because people don't want to adopt a new software. Employees, generally speaking, do not want a new software to be a part of their staff. Like, I think across the board, unless there's a small percentage of people that just are really into this, which, and if you're listening to this, you're interested in my content, it's probably you. And you just have to realize that most people don't want new software. So making that the ability to adopt that new thing just so effortlessly easy, especially if it integrates with your existing thing and you just have to click a button and like record your voice, for example, a lot of these, I think is just so key. I don't know. We'll see where this goes.
We need to see where this goes as well. But I'm actually curious now, how much of your life have you automated so far?
What I've found, I mean, it varies. If I automate too much, I mean, it has a real like negative downside on, especially like the sales cycle. What I do is I've built just an incredible amount of tools that can do everything. Like I can interact with every single software that I would interact with normally on my phone in Claude, right? I can just record a voice note. I can go on a walk and I can update. I can send emails. I can update my CRM. I can write content. I can, hypothetically even like post that content. I can respond to Instagram DMs. Instagram DMs I do for the most part manually because it's there are softwares that will flag you, like Meta, if you do use automation. But it's
Or even like ManyChat. Does Meta actually flag you for that?
ManyChat has a partnership, luckily, with Instagram. So this is what sucks about Meta. Their integration team is so hard to work with. That they will just work with like a few of these, and there's all these compliance things around. But if you're generally going to do like a messaging or anything like that, you do have to be pretty safe. So that's why I do it manually. We'll see. I have a 2:30 here, so I'd love to
Wrap it up.
wrap it up here. But dude, I
Yeah,
appreciate you having me on here.
that's okay, man. I didn't realize we went over time, but
Yeah.
we'll definitely wrap it up here. Where can people best find you?
My Instagram is angus.sewell, and my TikTok, I believe, is Angus the Tech Bro. That I'm not really on TikTok as much. Come hang out on Instagram. It's way cooler here.
And of course, I can recommend Tem Shift as well, your
Right on.
role for AI founders.
Hell yeah.
Angus, thank you for your time. I didn't realize we went over time. I enjoyed this conversation. Probably have a
Ian,
part two
likewise.
sometime later. But yeah, we'll speak soon.
I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Thanks for tuning in to the Shifan Show, turning expertise into evergreen digital assets that work independently from social media platforms. You can find out more with the Prosperum publishing system that does this exactly in the details and the show notes below. See you next time.